thing about you that most people don't know?
Let me tell you a little bit about it. I think that let me say it this way. Don't let the smooth voice fool you.
Tell me what that means.
My background, my history was that when I was born, I was taken from my mother, and I was raised in East Texas by my great grandmother. I lived with her until she passed away in the 6th grade. Then I came back to Dallas. So my early beginnings was a good old country boy, red clay dirt, Atlanta, Texas, where I grew up. Many days of walking, riding bikes, and just having fun in the country. And then I came to the city and I lived with my mom. I think don't laugh, but my sisters and brothers, we sat down and we talked about how many brothers and sisters we have. It wasn't up until a couple of years ago, we thought that it was just 13 of us. My dad Papa was a Rolling Stone, literally, Papa was a Rolling Stone. So much so that we began to talk with our grandmother, his mother, and she began to tell us things that we didn't know. And we found out we had much more than what we thought, many more than what we thought. We stopped counting at 23. Yeah, 23 kids. But we all knew our dad. So, one of the stories is that when I went to high school, my dad called me. I went to Business and Management Center. I graduated from Dallas ISD. And my dad called me and asked me, did I know this particular young lady at school? And I told him, yeah. He said, don't date her. I said, why? He said, that's your sister. Come to find out, the next day, I found the young lady, asked her who her daddy was. She tells me, I tell her, that's my daddy too. And come to find out, we're a couple months apart. So, yes. So my mom and dad were separated. From the time that I moved back to Dallas in the 6th grade, I went to a different school each year. My mom was not necessarily, she did not graduate high school, nor did my dad. My dad went as far as the 8th grade. My mom dropped out in high school, so no one went to college. So we were living, basically, we were poor. So poor that when I was in high school, this particular time when I was living in Oak Cliff, we lived off of Dentley Drive in Ohio, in Oak Cliff. And we were so poor to where we didn't have running water. We had to thank God that our next door neighbor across the street worked at night. So what would happen at night, and he worked midnight shift, so he would leave about 11 o'clock. So every night, my mother, my sister, and her boyfriend, and myself, we would get up, would wait maybe 30 minutes after he left, and we would take jugs of water, 1 gallon jugs. We would have 5 in each hand, and we would go fill up water, using his water so that we could have water to drink, to bathe, and to be able to cook with. Every night, every day when I came home, my dinner consisted of instant, the instant containers of Roman noodles, and either I got oatmeal or I got some type of cookies. That was my dessert, and that's what I lived in. I lived in poverty. I didn't have the best shoes, the best clothing. I went to school. I suffered from impetigo. We lived in the bottoms in Oak Cliff. We lived in the projects right next to the bottoms. We lived off Ohio. Again, we moved like every year. And I always wanted better for myself. And I thank you to this one teacher in O.W. Holmes that asked me one day. Now, mind you, through all of this, I was a straight A and B student. I was a straight A and B student. I didn't let my situation get me down, but I always knew I wanted to be better. I always wanted to be better than my mom. I always wanted to be better than the situation I was in. And this one teacher at OW home asked me what I wanted to do. And I told him I wanted to do business. Because every day I would go home and look at the skyline of downtown Dallas. And I said, I'm going to work there. That's the place I'm going to work. And I wanted to do that. And he asked me what I wanted to do. I said business. And that's how I went to Business and Management Center. Because nobody in my family had known anything about the magnet school program. And that set me on the path of business and set me on the path of where I am today. I worked through college. From the time that I graduated high school, I was like, I'm not going to college. I'm not doing this. I started that summer at Mountain View, and I was going to school full time and working 2 part-time jobs of 40 to 60 hours. And I was going to school full time. I did that for my first 2 years of college. I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to do that until somebody one day asked me, what are you doing? I told them I'm working, and at this particular time I was working 60 hours a week and going to school, taking 12, 13 hours. So I was getting about 3-4 hours sleep at night. And they asked me, why are you doing that? Don't you know if you're supposed to go to school full time, you're supposed to work part time, or vice versa? And that was the first time I realized what I was doing was difficult. And I worked my way through college, and I was able, that's where my leadership skills started in college. I became president of my fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I was president of the National Panhellenic Council. I was a College of Business representative, so that was my first election. I was elected to College of Business. I was an RA on campus, so that really began the springboard of being in leadership. And then once I graduated, it was like almost every organization that I was part of became president. So I just have a natural for leadership and making changes in organizations, and organizations that really stood for things to be able to help the community. So my past is not one of being privileged. My past is one where that I came from an unwanted child because, again, I was taken from my mom because she didn't want me at the time. So I came from that, did not allow my circumstances to dictate my path and my trajectory where I am today. I'm thankful for my experiences. I was able to overcome them. I was able to be exposed to not having anything. Again, getting up at 12 o'clock, whether it was raining, whether it was cold, whether it was hot. We had to do this every day just to be able to flush the toilet. Being able to do that, to seeing what a middle income family looks like, and thanking my grandparents who gave me that opportunity. So I'm very thankful for my experiences. I grew up in Highland Hills, but that experience, and all those days of having to walk back and forth and just never complaining, and just I was taught by my grandfather that you worked for what you want. And that if you see something that you want, you work for it. You don't steal, you don't take it from somebody, you go out and work for it. And I have that ethic, and I want to make sure, that is the reason why I have such an affinity for seniors and for young people, because I grew up under the feet of seniors back in Atlanta, Texas. I was listening to great grandmothers and uncles. They're 90, 100 years old, and I'm listening to them tell me, things like that meat is greasy, and learning that, and boy, I've been where you're trying to go, and I've forgotten more than you know, and just listen to those words of wisdom, and just understanding that, how not to make those same mistakes. And coming up as a youth and not having, going through my experiences in school, shaped me in terms of caring for those individuals. And that's why I'm so passionate about making sure that youth are taken care of, my seniors are taken care of.